Hi, hey there. Oh, I'm gonna pull up the YouTube chat on my channel. You should pull up the YouTube chat on your channel.
Want it all filter into one place?
It should, but sometimes sometimes if my connection gets iffy, it stops loading it onto the screen for me, even though it's loading onto the screen for everybody else.
Well, I don't have the thumbnail on my channel. Well, it's a pretty picture of the Schwarzwald, the Black Forest in Germany, and I think which is the birthplace of Grimm's fairy tales, so I think that it works extremely well.
I don't know. I applied changes to all, so it should have uploaded the thumbnail to your channel.
Read this about us.
Hello, hey, and welcome everyone to Book Talk, which is mine and CB's small book club of mostly two. Every month, we each pick a book that the other one has to read. The only rules are it has to be a book that we enjoyed. That way, there's at least one person on the book side. And our first pick for this month is Fablehaven by Brandon Mull, and it was CB's pick. So
it is my
go ahead and tell the pretty party about it.
Okay, I'll add the thumbnail later. Fablehaven follows two siblings, Seth, who's an 11-year-old boy, and Kendra, who is 13-year-old girl, as they visit their grandparents while their parents go on a cruise after the death of their other set of grandparents. Kendra and Seth haven't really met their grandparents much. They don't know them very far. No, Chris is not an isekai. While they and the grandparents own here comes Storm, a farm, a lot of land, and when Kendra and Seth arrive, only Grandpa is there to greet him because Grandma is supposedly off visiting her aunt, or an aunt who is sick, and she was also mysteriously absent from the funeral with another flimsy excuse for her being sick. A sickness that the grandpa forgets promptly, and then it's like, oh yeah, that definitely, yes, she recovered, or she had a little bit of a cold when she left.
Anyway. He was not at all suspicious. No suspicious behavior from Grandpa.
No. Grandpa lays out some pretty straight up rules for Kendra and Seth. Don't go into the forest and don't go into the barn. He uses the excuse of rusty and dangerous old farming equipment for the barn, and then the forest has ticks, which have Lyme disease, and I thought it was hilarious for them describing what Lyme disease is, because that's been I grew up where Lyme, multiple people in my family have gotten Lyme disease. So I was like, oh, forgot this is not a thing that just every child knows.
I forgot that happened in the book, and it was the children and I were walking the dogs, and one of my children said something about they saw a little tick on the dog, and I was like, a tick or a flea? And he was like, oh, flea. I think they're getting fleas. And I'm like, okay, because that's the big difference. And then I had to explain to him what a
ticks
tick
are
was.
Much easier to deal with. Seth is a little aspiring adventurer, suited up in a camo t-shirt for his adventures. Hi, Blake. And he cannot abide by these extreme restrictions, and ventures into the forest. There he comes across a hag, an old woman mysteriously living in the forest, who tries to lure him into her shack shed thing, and he goes, nope, and leaves.
I ain't Hansel. I ain't Gretel.
The whole book. Kendra, meanwhile, is enjoying the pool, the gardens with lots of different insects and butterflies, but Seth cannot restrain himself from exploring. This ends up with Kendra catching Seth as he goes to sneak into the woods once again. And they, sorry, I'm messing up the timeline or kind of speeding up because yeah, it's fine. They go into the forest together, and when they come back out again, they are caught by their grandfather. And the grandfather is like, I literally gave you guys 2 rules. Um, and the punishment that he said was, if you can't abide by these rules, you're going to be locked in your bedroom for the attic bedroom, which is like a nice bedroom, for the entirety of your stay. They negotiate it down to, he explains that like there are dangerous, animals and stuff in the forest, and I don't want you guys to get hurt. It's not just the ticks. They negotiate it down to just 1 day in the attic bedroom, which I think is way too.
I thought it was 3.
Nope, 1.
Okay.
Because I was like, the fuck. And the kids abide by that and are kind of, whiny. But while this is happening, one of the workers on the farm, Dale, has been mysteriously leaving out tins of cow's milk that is apparently unpasteurized for the insects, and Kendra is very curious about this, and she's also been spending her time following a set of clues attached to keys that their grandfather gave them, which have a bunch of different keyholes all throughout the room that unlock more keys, and this is a little puzzle. It eventually comes across a journal, and it's locked, and when she unlocked it, there's a singular note on the last page that says, drink the milk. She then goes and drinks the milk after, she gets her brother.
No,
like,
I was about to say that, no. She very much was like, I'm not about to be the test subject for this, and manipulates her brother.
She really uses the term test subject and goes against her little brother to do it, which is such big sister energy. I was like, yeah. And so they both drink the milk, and that reveals that all that insects and everything were actually fairies. Grandpa then explains that this is a place called Fablehaven, a preservation.
It's a magical wildlife preserve.
Yeah, a preserve. That was the word. A magical wildlife preserve that magic in the world, as humanity grows, become less safe for magical creatures to be out there. And Fablehaven is one of like 35 magical preserves across all the continents. There's 2 in Antarctica, where magical creatures of all types can congregate as long as they agree to not cause mischief upon people who have not first caused mischief, and not to harm another.
They can basically only retaliate. They can't.
Yeah, they can only retaliate. Humans, however, then can choose to hurt, but then they are no longer protected, which is important. The siblings are super intrigued by this, as all preteens or all kids would be. But they are given absolutely really no more information and told that it will all come within time. When this happens, a fairy dealer, trapper, comes in and shows them like different fairies that he's stolen from where they live and their home environments to go be put in captivity and be bought. And I have no feelings on that right now because we'll get into that later. Thought that guy was going to turn out to be a villain. Turns out he's just a part of how this world works. Anyways.
This whole thing was like a really big metaphor for wildlife conservation and the ethics behind zookeepers. We
kind of missed the plot a little bit in that, or I feel like we missed the right message. Anyways,
we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. So, this ignites a desire in Seth to also be a fairy trader, captor, whatever. And after he's told not to repeatedly, And he like is struggling a lot with it, but eventually he does capture a fairy, puts her in a jar overnight, and then she turns into an imp. Happens when a fairy is captured indoors from sunset to sunrise. And she was like begging and to be let out, and he didn't. He felt kind of bad about it, but he's like, nah, I'll let her out tomorrow maybe. And she turns
I'll let
into
her out tomorrow. It'll be
an
fine.
imp, which means like her wings fall off and she turns into a grotesque form. And she does escape after he lets her out to feed her some milk. But this is basically the worst punishment you can do to a fairy, because they are so self-obsessed and vain. Um, this is like they view themselves as so beautiful because they are, and this is made into a monstrosity. In retaliation, the other fairies, for this act upon their kind, because they're afraid of it also happening to them, attack Seth and turn him into a walrus abomination thing. Um, they then, to cure him, take him back to the hag. The grandparent or grandpa knows about this. There's also Lena, who is a ex dryad who left her, gave up her immortality to save the human mortal man, the caretaker, like 200 years ago, that she fell in love with, and has been very slowly aging since then. But went all around the world, doing great things, exploring, setting some swimming records. But came back home when she started getting older because she wanted to return to Fablehaven. But she's also there for all of this, being unproblematic. Um, and so they go back to the hag, who is revealed to be a witch, and she is bound into the little shack by these ropes that can only be undone by a mortal. And even though she is mortal, but not her, she can't undo her own knots. Um, and there used to be 13 knots on her enclosure, but now there are only 2. Grandpa agrees to blow on one of the knots, undoing it, in return for the burst of magic that she gets to fix Seth back to his original form. And that leaves 1 knot left that is trapping the witch, who used to be a caretaker's wife and then strayed into the darkness of dark magic and evil beings, and became what she is now. And so that's resolved. Grandpa was like, hey guys, don't do that. You did a bad thing, but don't do it again. And then reveals that mid-summer, yeah, solstice, the summer solstice is coming up. And that's a night where all of the boundaries between the different territories in Fablehaven, including the human haven, comes down, and the creatures are free to wreak havoc, basically. But they cannot come within the house. Seth and Kendra are given very firm instructions to not open the door or the windows. And then they do, or look outside, and Seth, not waylaid at all by his stunt as being a torturer and then a walrus, looks out the window. They are summarily tricked by the monsters, just like Grandpa said they were going to be. And they open the window, letting some creatures inside. They're able to retreat behind the salt circle surrounding their bed. But the creatures go out into the rest of the house. Kendra and Seth stay up all night as much as they can, and in the morning, when the sun has arisen and all of the boundaries are back in place, they venture out into the rest of the house and discover that Grandpa and Lena are gone, and that Dale is now a lead statue in the front yard. Realizing that they're going to have to save Grandpa or do something because they fucked that up, they venture out into the forest, where they come across some satyrs that are messing with a orcish woman, a troll woman, orcish woman, And they ask for help. They do a little steal her soup, whatever. But they ask the satyrs for help, and they're like, no, that's not really our thing. Do you hear that? We gotta leave. Which is funny. And then they come back, and they realize there's a great, noise. And they go into the barn, and that's where they come across a giant cow. Which I didn't explain the milk. Yeah, no, I did. So they have to drink the milk every single day to retain basically the clear sight, to see the magical things. And turns out that milk comes from this giant cow, but she hasn't been milked in a day, and so they have to milk her giant udders by jumping and like wrapping their arms around it and then falling, and I didn't appreciate that scene, actually.
I was like, this is an interesting thing to include.
I was like, is this someone's kink? Well, I know it's some people's kink, but it felt...
I feel like it's one of those things that was written with such a rainbow vision that the other implications were not even considered. I think it was just so innocently, well, they're on a farm. This is
it's a giant cow. You have to milk the cow.
Yeah, and the way it was described and stuff, I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh yeah, this is very basic country stuff, very country knowledge. Even him referring to the teats and stuff as teats. I'm like, yeah, this is, and so I was like. I'm like, it feels like this is just one of those things where it's written so innocently that they did not even consider any other ways that it could be taken. And I'm okay with that, to be honest. Yeah. That's fine. Especially since...
But I was like, I'm not. We're spending a lot of time on that.
It was a weirdly long time focused on it, though. Because I was like, are we still on this?
I'm like, we didn't need to be working on this for so long. They could have just done it.
I do feel like some of that part could have been summarized, so.
Yeah. We summarized a lot of other things. This could have been summarized, too. RP says, I thought it was a little weird when I first read it, too. Then I got a degree in agriculture, and it all made so much more sense. I mean, it's not that it didn't make sense. It's just you researched this and really thought about it, and that shows here. But I didn't.
No, but he went on. This is just me being silly, but Brandon Mull went on a tour of a farm, and he got to do that. And he was like, I need to write this, and he got so enthused about it.
Yeah, he's like, imagine if it was a giant cow. I'm like, yeah.
Giant cow. Oh, I learned all this about cows. This is how cows work.
And that's great. Too much. Okay, so they milk the cow, relieving her of the pressure, and then they don't shower or anything or change clothes. They just rinse their clothes, which
because they're trying to save on time here.
You have other clothing, right?
No, they're trying to save on time. They're just rinsing their clothes.
This is rinse their clothes because that's so much quicker than just changing. Okay, so they sleep a little because they were up for 30 hours. Or when they come back upstairs, there is a message written out in they have this chicken that is in a cage in the attic bedroom that their grandpa's like, this is Goldilocks, the chicken. She lays eggs, feed her well. Anyway, your responsibility. So it turns out that's his wife. Goldilocks the chicken is their grandmother. Who does retain moments of lucidity sometimes, and in one of these she writes out, I'm Gran, with one of the colonels, and then they ask her a couple questions, and she nods that yes, the witch can save her from this, but the witch is down to the last knot. Grandma doesn't know this. Grandma Chicken doesn't know this, because she is out of it most of the time, but we'll get to that later. So they take Grandma Chicken to go to the witch, and they offer the witch, do you want a, bathrobe and, a nice quilt? And she's like, no, undo my knot. And the kids are like, okay, but you help us find our grandpa and also fix our grandma? And she's like, no, I can only do one of those. And they believe her. And so they agree, and they undo the knot, and Grandma is turned back into Grandma. Minnie's like, fuck, I didn't realize that was her last knot. Missed the whole walrus thing. Um,
I was
and
about to say you didn't mention the walrus thing,
yeah,
or my internet was being
no,
weird.
no, I talked about the walrus thing, but
Okay.
I'm saying Grandma missed the whole walrus thing. And so the witch goes off into the forest, and Grandma's like, okay, we need to lock in and find my husband. Uh, and so they go and visit a troll. Grandma's in a bathrobe, slippers, and a swimsuit under the bathrobe because the kids did a horrible job at grabbing her an outfit. The house has been ransacked, but um, so they go visit a troll who has this kind of test type thing of one of them has to jump from a log to a log up to his little house within or his cave within a ravine. Grandma isn't fully intending to do it.
Well, to be fair, it's not a test so much as he really doesn't want to be
Oh
bothered.
yeah,
And
he
he's
doesn't
like,
want to do it.
no, if you want my help, this is what you have to do to
Yeah.
even bother negotiating with
He
me.
has a ladder, but he's like, no, I'll use the ladder for the other two of you if one of you does this. So it's like 9% for entertainment, and 10% to prove that they're committed. So Grandma's gonna do it, but Seth is like, no, you're Grandma, and he does it. He does fall off at like the 17th, but the troll catches him with a little like chain thing. And it's like, yeah, I was gonna catch you if you fell after the 15th, which, mind you, is like 15 times 3, like 45 feet in the air. Like, that's not, it wasn't like, no. He was like, no, you can die until you're impressive.
Yeah.
And so they go up there, there's some negotiation that happens, and Grandma, they come to a deal. Grandma will give him the honor of a 90-minute massage in exchange for him using his basically scrying to see where Grandpa is. They do this. The kids are in on the massage. They do his legs and feet, which I didn't think the kids needed to be a part of that. Like the whole thing was that she's good at massaging some kids that are like literally just being. Anyways, the troll is in ecstasy. Which is the word used in the book, and he's like moaning and everything. But then he's like, that was great. This is where your husband is, and also Lena's there too. They're in the base of the Forbidden Chapel, which is a perch that was built over where a demon is sealed. Because a demon used to be in the area of Fablehaven, who like took over right after Fablehaven was set up and does evil demon things, but nothing can defeat him if he gets out. So Grandma is like, all right, I'm gonna bring my golem, which they have a giant stone golem, and then my singular crossover with a singular bolt that will kill anything more or that once was mortal, which does cover the witch, and they're gonna go kill the witch before she can let the demon out. Now that she is out. Sorry, Storm looks very focused. Sorry. Okay. One second. And so sorry, Storm was just being weird. I thought something was wrong. So, they're like, we're gonna go do this, but in doing so, if she does kill the witch, that means the protections that prevent her from being killed by all the things in Fablehaven will no longer apply. So they're like, okay, we're gonna try and subdue her with the golem, but if that doesn't work, I'm going to kill her, and you guys don't get involved. But they're like, we're coming too, and she's like, no, it's super dangerous, and they're like, we're just gonna follow you, and she's like, okay. Like, real quick up. That was just like a quick turnaround. She was like, all right, you can
To be fair, they did use some convincing arguments, which were like, it's not safer for us there than it is here.
Yeah, but she was like, I'm going to have you leave. And then, like, yeah, then our parents are going to come back and then
Yeah.
we're going to be standing there, and then we're come right back onto the property, and the demon's going to be here. It would have been
like
safer than
the kids actually had some good points.
Yeah. So she lets the kids come with, gives Seth a bag of magic dust while she has one herself. But Kendra does not get one because Kendra has not done mischief nor magic or harm towards anything. So all the full protections of Fablehaven still apply to her. They go to the basement. Lena and Grandpa are there. It goes terribly. All of the imps, which are what the fairies turn into, have been working for the witch. We know that, but now they're the size of people. And there's also this wooden puppet kind of thing. It's like a wooden golem, basically, that works for the witch. And they're able to overpower Grandma. Her shot misses. The golem is destroyed, and Seth and her are captured, but they can't. The imps and the scarecrow is what I'm gonna call it, or the puppet, can't touch Kendra because she hasn't done anything to break the wards. But the witch still can. The witch runs after her when she runs out because Grandma tells her to run away, and the witch is like, "Just come die with your family," and Kendra's like, "No," and runs away. But she runs away to go get like a weapon or something, but she's like, I don't know what to do, like I'm miles away from home, what am I gonna do that Grandma can't? Sorry, Storm is just in an active fucking mood and just batting everything that she can out from underneath my bed. No idea what's going on. She eventually runs back. She's heading for the house. She's like, okay, I'm gonna go up into the other half of the attic, which is basically their armory. And I don't know what to do, but I have to do something. But then she sees the gazebo pond where the dryads are. Sorry, I'm so concerned about Storm being weird. Where the dryads are, and she's like, oh shit, the temple to the fairy queen is there, which she heard that someone, like, a tale of warning her away that some guy went to ask the fairy queen for a favor and was turned into dandelion fluff. And so she's like, maybe his favor wasn't good enough, so I'm gonna ask too. I'm gonna ask because better I die on my own terms. Which I'm like, hell yeah, girl. She then goes to the dryads in the lake try and drown her, but she manages to get to the island, and she doesn't immediately turn into dandelion fluff. She cries, basically realizing, like, oh shit, my little brother's gonna die, my grandparents are gonna die, like, people are really going to die if this happens. And then Sam, can you take over real quick with the description?
Okay, I was like, take over what? Yeah,
Yeah.
Kendra's basically just kind of like, my grandma, or not my grandma, she's like, okay, maybe the guy turned into dandelion fluff because he had a shitty reason to ask for help from the fairy queen. So she decides that she's gonna go to the middle of the lake, which she takes a boat, and naiads are trying to stop her by pulling her away, but she kind of figures out that in order to get away from the naiads, she just sort of becomes boring to them. Sorry, I have to sneeze. Okay. So yeah, she stops like being entered, like when they're going to get her, she stops rowing and then they kind of get bored, and so they're like whatever. She gets to the island in the middle of the lake. Then the naiads like leave her alone But they do steal the boat, so she's now stuck in the middle of the lake without the boat. She goes over, she goes into the middle of the island, and she's like, finds the little shrine, which she had been expecting a really big shrine, but she's like, oh yeah, no, fairies are small, so it makes sense that it would be a small shrine.
She then, so the reality of the situation sinks in, and she, sorry, my door keeps going open again, and I don't want to put my apartment on blast. The reality of the situation sinks in, and she's crying, but then the little statue of a fairy starts crying as well, and she hears in her head the fairy queen ask for a combination of tears, milk, and blood.
Well, she does like pray very emotionally into the fairy queen.
Yes.
Which is
and so she thinks of tears. The fairy queen's tears are collected in this bowl about the size of her palm, and then as well as milk must be the magic cow, and then blood. She's like, the cow or me? So she goes back to the puppet shows up, and the puppet is joined by hooks at its joints. She just unhooks the arms, that is mischief. But then, so it's able to touch her to try and attack her, but then it gets too close to the water to try and grab its arms, so she tossed it.
Yeah, because she unhooks them and she chucks them into the lake.
Yeah, because she pulls them, chucks them in there. I realize I've not been wearing my glasses. So she, actually I'm gonna keep them off. So she goes back to the barn and then collects some of the milk from the cow, and then she cuts the cow's udder with a old,
which is rude,
clipper. And I'm like, girl. She's like, yeah, it's not protected by fur. And I'm like, ow. Okay. First off, that you just move the fur to the side. Do somewhere else. She does like tell the cow she's doing this, but it's kind of like,
rude. As fuck.
Cannot understand because it is like, what the fuck? But just like yelling and stuff. And so, and then she puts the blood in the bowl as well, and then pricks some of her own blood, puts it in the bowl. She takes it outside. The fairy queen said that her handmaidens would come, so she'd be like, oh, the fairies, but no fairies are like drinking from the bowl or coming to help her. They're just kind of like looking at the bowl and being like, So Kendra like drinks or like puts some of the concoction in her mouth, which then the fairies drink it as well and turn into 6-foot-tall warrior women.
The queen hath gifted her a fairy army.
Yeah, the queen gifted her a fairy army in exchange for doing these tasks with like weapons and shit. So they fix Dale, and then they go, and the demon has already been released apparently. So they go to the forbidden chapel, church, whatever, temple, and members of her family have been, turned into terrible things, some sort of punishment. They undo all of those.
I think one of them's a spider.
What?
I said I think one of them's a spider.
One's a slug. That's grandma's a slug. Lena is a fish in a fish tank. Grandpa's an orangutan, and Seth is old and in a jar.
Yeah.
Oh, and the fairies kiss each other on the lips to turn one back from being an imp.
Everyone's kissing.
Oh my god, there's so much kissing. So fairy ladies are kissing to turn them into hot, beautiful warrior women. And
it's a PG fae sensualism.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a stronger word, but I'm like, this is a middle grade novel.
Yeah.
I don't know who's watching us.
Yep. So they are all they're healing each other as they're battling the imps, and then there's other evil dark creatures here that are battled or being fought. The demon's there as well, and then he kills some fae, but then the fae defeat him. It's a big battle scene that Kendra's just kind of watching. And all members of the family are just kind of watching, which is fair. They're not warriors, but we're just
They got an army. The army's handling that.
They're like, people are dying. Okay, they back up, but those ones are really dead. They're able to put the witch and the demon are resealed. The other ghostly lady that kind of scared Kendra during the solstice night just kind of like pieces out. Yeah, so they're resealed, but with chains, knotted chains this time, or golden knots this time.
They revive the Dell, who was turned into a statue, but Dell has a brother,
Dale.
Like,
yeah, Warren.
Zombified in a way. He like doesn't do anything, and he doesn't get healed.
Yeah, so they go back. They defeat the demon. They all come back to the house. Everyone seems to be healed and everything, and then all of the fairies, like 300 of them, kiss Kendra just all over the face, and they turn back into little fairies when they do that. Kendra passes out from this, and then sleeps for 2 full days and nights, and then we're a little later.
Magic.
Yeah, we're a little later. We pick up while they're Grandpa and Kendra. Oh, the fairies also haul off Lena at one point, and we're like, no, don't do that, and then they do anyways. And we're coming to we pick up a couple days later, like 5 days later, and Kendra and Grandpa are returning the bowl, and then they're also peek into the pond, and the dryads are there, and Lena is within the dryads, and Kendra tries to get her to like talk to her and recognize her, but Lena just tries to lure her into the water so she can drown her, and they kind of talk about like multiple times Lena and Kendra discuss like, oh, would you want to go back to being a dryad, like would you want mortality again, or like are you glad you became mortal? And Lena repeatedly said, yes, I'm glad being mortal. No, I don't want to return to being a dryad. And then she is forced to by the fairies.
She also
but she seems content in her state.
I will say though, because like they theorized that the fairies thought they were helping her, but like she had been a fish. It's entirely possible the fairies could not return her back to her mortal form. It could only return her back to her original form.
They returned her back to her mortal form.
They what?
They returned her to her mortal form and then made her into a dryad again.
Okay, yeah. Never mind then.
Yeah. And so then we did. They're like, debating or talking about mortality, and it's sad. They're not sure what the changes of all of that ritual did to Kendra, but she no longer needs to drink milk to see the magical everything. Their parents arrive and they're like, and to think you guys were scared, it's not so scary. And they're like, oh, we share a look. And then they leave. And they're like, yeah, we'll come back to Fablehaven.
I like how they're like, our parents came back happier and fatter than when they left.
Yeah.
I was like, they had a good vacation.
Yeah. And that is Fablehaven.
Oh, also the grandparents have mentioned, like, separately and then I think also together, that basically they're looking for who will carry on after them. They basically need
new caretakers.
Yeah, to pick the new caretakers, and that they think these two.
That the rest of their cousins and stuff failed to follow all of the clues with the keys to find the journal that says drink the milk. Yeah. And so they don't have the right initiative or drive to be caretakers. And so Lena, and partly Seth, but mostly Lena, shows that.
Seth had the gumption.
Yeah,
Seth had the puzzle solving.
So, what did you think of this book?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good fun middle grade.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I have, so I thought there was like 12 of these books. There's 5, and then there's a spin-off series that's another 5. That is from the siblings again. So there's 10 books that follow Kendra and Seth. Yeah, on a reread, I enjoyed it. What had me most in a tizzy reading it was the adults being irresponsible. Which I'm like, that didn't bother me at all as a kid, I bet. But now I'm from like a different mindset. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing to like every adult in this book?
The adults were fine, in my opinion.
Oh.
The adults felt believable for what their roles and what their behaviors are, because like the grandparents are very much used to dealing with supernatural creatures and not really human children anymore. And so the grandpa, like, I actually really liked the grandpa talking to them about, like, your actions have to have consequences,
Yeah.
and where she's like, oh, well, we shouldn't be punished at all, and he's like, now does that seem very fair? I thought that was a great conversation.
Oh yeah. No, there was a
So
lot of really good conversations that I think would be really good for like kids to read. What bothered me is him constantly like you'll find out later. Oh, that direct action has consequences or not, but like not telling what the consequences are. Like the
I
actual.
feel like that's less irresponsible and more just they didn't think it was important.
No, yeah, but like yeah, and then yeah. I like the night where like everything come like I know they told the kids, hey, don't open the windows or doors, um, but the kids have Seth has shown multiple times not be able to follow directions, and this is like a serious danger, and they couldn't have put like locks on the windows or something like that. Like I feel like there
How
weren't
would you put a lock on an already built window?
put
Also,
2 screws and then a lock.
and how would Seth could unlock a window.
Yeah, but it was not doing things to an extra level of precaution.
There's only so much one can do.
A latch on a window is not a so much in that with the level of consequences.
Okay,
Um,
but that's the thing. Like they told the children the danger,
yeah,
and and also Seth had been behaving since he like found out the truth and stuff.
but he kept asking Dale and stuff, being like, "Oh, I want to look," and Dale being like, "No, it's dangerous. You
But the
don't want to do
grandpa
that."
doesn't know that.
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. So there needs to be more communication between all the adults. But yeah. Not to a point where it made me not enjoy the novel or anything like that, but I was just like, and I understand it for plot reasons and all of
Well,
that.
yeah, but I'm just talking like from a parental view. Like I said, there's only so much you can do. At some point, it's the children's responsibility, and it's like, yeah, they told Seth that really bad things were going to happen, and yes, Seth has proven that he doesn't make the best decisions.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, there's no lock they could have put on that window that Seth would not have been able to unlock, unless it's like a magic lock.
I think there'd be a limit to the kind of lock an 11-year-old could get through.
Not for a window.
Yeah?
Not that they would have been able to get in less than 24 hours.
Just like a combination lock on the like just mount a combination lock on it.
I think that requires more work than it. Like this is an old house. How I'm baffled at how one would lock a window with a combination lock.
What I'm imagining is like you know, 2 pieces of metal that overlap mounted on either side of the frames with a hole in the center, and then you put a combination lock through
Yeah,
it.
you'd have to get like special stuff for that. Like they would have had to go into town and buy that shit. Windows don't. That's not how most windows lock.
Yeah, but go into town. You have 24 hours. Or you knew this shit was coming. You knew that your, nephew is, or not nephew. Yeah, I think, but my point is, aside from the actual mechanics of how to lock a window, is I think it would have been a little more believable not believable, but I would have preferred or something who's like, if they were like the great uncle or something. It seems like they were kind of unfamiliar with kids in general and how,
Yeah.
like,
It's their grandparents.
yeah, but they raised kids. Like, they know what kids
Before
are.
they were caretakers.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like,
that was one of my things. They're not used to being around human kids anymore, let alone human. And the other human kids that they watch, they're like the cousins and stuff.
yeah.
They didn't like they did not have to deal with children who were aware of the supernatural.
So that takes me to my second point. I understand they're looking for heirs and new caretakers. That's an 11-year-old.
You gotta start them young.
Do you?
Yes. There are certain jobs, certain vocations that it is much easier to do if you start training somebody really young.
But it seemed like the grandparents didn't start young. If they had the other kids if they have their kid, that is the kid's parents, like our, Seth and Kendra's parents.
Well, they're not like
caretakers.
Okay, but yeah, the kids leave at the end of the summer, so it's not like, oh, you're my apprentice now. They're just like looking for like, they were looking for someone with the potential and stuff.
Yes.
They weren't expecting. Also, remember, this summer solstice was different than normal. They were not expecting a demon breakout. So what I assume is previous summer solstices were not as harsh. They were not as bad, because they kept warning the kids. They're like, it might be worse than normal. Yeah, they're like, it might be worse than normal because of what you did, and because they're like mad at Seth and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think. See, that's I think is the big difference. Is I don't think Grandpa fully understood how bad it was going to be.
Yeah. And they couldn't have known that the fairies were going to leave at the sight of Seth's face, like when they realized
that too, because the fairies were supposed to help protect them. So there's just that's why I'm just like, there's only so much one can do or prepare for.
But that's part of my question is, so they're like, okay, kids know about it for the solstice, right? So, and it's better to know about that. They're like, better to see the magical shit, because Kendra's like, I almost don't want to drink the milk today, and they're like, no, because then you'll be able to you'll be easier to trick. What happened if Kendra and Seth didn't figure out that all the puzzles that, and then all magic is real, and so
then they would have been fine. The protection, they're fully protected if they're unaware. Like, they're not, like, if they're 100% unaware and stuff, that doesn't make them easier to trick, because the protections, they can't be hurt or anything.
I think they can be. I think it's not. I think Spiderwick is more like you can't. No, maybe that's not Spiderwick. Also, I kept getting heavy Spiderwick vibes from a lot of this stuff, which I think they came out within the same time. I don't know. But they said, like, oh no, it's dangerous if you, like, I think the noises and everything would still be happening if they couldn't see.
Yeah, but I don't think they can hurt them.
But they could still be.
I think they could just freak them out a little bit, but I don't think anything. I don't think there would have been.
But they could still do the like trickery and stuff. I think so. Because Kendra, without doing anything wrong, also saw the like baby crying and the wolves and that mischief. When later it's proven that she hasn't done mischief herself, so mischief.
Yeah, but she drank the milk already.
Yes.
There's levels to it.
I think that the danger would still be there, or at least they didn't make it clear that, like, oh, now you're in more danger.
I don't know, that was the vibe that I got, was
Okay.
that as long as they were unaware, they were perfectly safe. But it was after they became aware, as long as they were in the house.
Okay.
But then after they became aware, and the attic like had extra
Yeah, I
protections and
enjoyed
stuff.
that they gave a reason for like why an adult didn't stay with them. Like that's not what the attic's for and stuff like that. I liked a lot of the world building and everything. Um, yeah, I don't have to keep harping on that point. Um, I I had fun with the the difference between Kendra and Seth's approach to the magic. That
Mhm.
Seth is like, wanting to investigate and like trap and, take apart and blah blah blah. And Kendra is like, no, I want to observe. I want to like go along with Grandpa as he goes about his rounds and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting. And also shows that like you can be here. It doesn't like, oh, Kendra doesn't care about the magic, or Kendra's not like, not interested. Like, no, she's just going about it a very much more respectful way than
Yeah.
Seth does. There are, at least in my copy of the book, there are questions in the back to be like read
Yeah,
aloud
there
to
were
like,
discussion questions
yeah,
and
discussion questions. So I thought that was cool as well. I was like, because there was a lot of points throughout the book where I'm like, oh, this is a good teaching moment. This is a good like to like talk about this with kids to like learn different lessons and stuff like that, or like even the concepts of like mortality or immortality with Lena. Like I was like, okay, there's a lot of big things that are covered very well within the book, um in a way I think kids could process. And I
I
read this, but I don't
thought
remember much about
I
reading
thought
them.
that they did the conservation angle well.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think they did it well. Literally,
um,
my only issue with it is how weird
Fairy
the
Trapper
fairy
is.
catcher was.
I
Um,
felt the fairy catcher was put in a very negative light, especially after Seth tried to do it and was punished gravely for that. And I don't know, I was reminded more of an ivory hunter.
yeah, I think they portrayed him as like kind of villainous or like kind of like on
Yeah, like
the,
menacing and stuff. And I will say, Grandpa was not always portrayed as the best.
yeah, yeah. And then him and then just like even the concept of like, oh, they have to be docile. I'm like, they are beings with thoughts, like, and feelings and desires. Um
They are
and
sentient.
what, and intelligence, and I'm like not loving that, like just the concept of them being
Yeah.
captured, like when the preservation idea in general super cool. Like, yeah, this is a place for beings to go that can't be because their natural habitats are gone or it's unsafe, and it's guaranteed safety as long as they follow these rules. Like that I can get behind. I think it's great. It's the buying and selling bit, and the fact that there's like a market for paying money to get the fairies and stuff here. I'm like, that's weird. That doesn't fit kind of the vibe of everything else about Fablehaven.
No,
Like,
it doesn't fit the vibe of Fablehaven, but I and it could possibly be because of the media I grew up in the 90s, but I took that as more and here's an example of like the hunters and the poachers and stuff who like take animals and creatures unnecessarily from their homes.
yeah,
And Grandpa is trying to do the best that he can for them because they're already captured. There's not, you know.
yeah.
And so yeah, I got very much the vibe that the hunter is not a good guy. The hunter is not someone we want to emulate. It's not okay.
Yeah.
Um and so that's why I was like, yeah, it doesn't fit the vibe of Fablehaven, but like in the real world when it comes to conservations and zoos and stuff, you have good zoos and you have bad zoos. And so
Oh,
I think
totally.
I liked that he had an example of that. I just wish he made it more
I
clear.
wish there was a follow up where it's like,
Yeah,
hey,
because
yes, I work with him, but you don't want to be like him.
Yeah, because the only real thing that happened, like Seth had consequences and stuff, but it was because he did it wrong, because
Yeah.
he
Not
wasn't
that
good
like,
at it.
oh, yeah, but that creepy guy, he does it right. And it's like, no, but the problem is with what he's doing, not how he's doing it.
Yes,
Um,
that was my only
High Storm.
hang up with that angle of it.
Yeah.
I also
And
like
that,
this.
yeah, how Seth. I would be interested to know in later books if Seth starts seeing the fairies as people, like, or as like beings, rather than just like more
I think he
interesting bugs.
already kind of has
Yeah, I
started
think
because
he's starting that at the end with like his kind of remorse when the fairy is begging, and then him trying to help the fairy once it turns into imp, and then apologizing afterwards. Once he's like, oh, you're the, like, I know you, when he's being captured, and then once he is captured before he's fixed, being like, I am sorry. So I wish we got a little bit more in his head, or like, and would be excited to see how that plays out in the future. Um, let's see.
Oh,
Do you
so
have
for
any?
one, I did not expect this to be a Fable conservation book, but I figured it out very early on when like they were like, oh yeah, it's Fablehaven, and then they're starting to like, oh yeah, we put milk out for insects, and I'm like, so is this a haven for fable creatures? Is that where we're going with this? But
Yeah.
I grew up about an hour away from Nashville, and I live about an hour away from Nashville, and the Nashville Zoo is one of is one of those zoos that heavily focused on like conservation, education, and getting animals off the endangered and species list and stuff. So it's a really great. So I like grew up with a very educational zoo, and so I'm like reading this, and I'm like, oh, it's like the Nashville Zoo.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wish there was more education, or it was like one of these things you like give them a book to read. Like, come on. Because that being like, oh, you'll discover it as we go, and I'm like, these kids need like the 10 top rules.
Funny enough, if you go to Brandon Mull's website and you go to his Fablehaven, which I have linked in the description, there is a caretaker's guide.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Fablehaven.
I was like, they need that. That should have been like.
I mean, it could just be that Grandpa really sucks at training the newbies.
Yeah, when Grandma showed up, fucking icon. She was explaining shit. She was being so clear. Her being hey, this is the thing you can't do, and here's why. I'm not going to tell you because, and this is the dangers. Like with whatever magical artifact they have, she's like, I don't really know, but I can't tell you because it's dangerous to know. And I'm like, oh, we love a rule and an explanation why it's a rule. So yeah, Grandma icon. Also, just so funny in her bathrobe. To answer RB your question, I have when I was very small. This is my pick, but it was kind of like an iffy pick for me because I know I read them and I know I loved them, but I don't really remember anything about it. I remembered it was like magical conservation, but there was another series I read a lot around this time, which was called The Sisters Grimm, which is a very similar plot.
I've read book 1 of that, but
or very similar as style, like age group, and then with fables and everything.
I will say we didn't have these when I was a kid. I would have ate these series up.
So I read that as well. So that's.
Oh, RP had a lot of. Hold on, I want to go back. I had to look at the chat. See, like I said, my thing doesn't update. He read the first 3 of the second series. You're talking about the witch, which is allowing the witch to possess Storm.
Yeah.
The adult did not, in fact, adult very well. I will defend. I thought Grandma adulted well.
Yes.
Dell felt like a young adult to me. I don't know how old he's actually supposed to be. Lena wasn't human in the first place. I don't expect
Lena
to adult like a human. Grandma
though.
is really the only adult who sucked at adulting. Okay,
yeah.
Let us not.
He was also the primary adult.
Let's not besmirch all the adults in the book. It's really just Grandpa now that like we've gone further in the discussion. So, The only thing important to Seth was breaking every single rule he could.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
Which, let me tell you, I love little shits sometimes, but also I am very tired of reading middle grades where the brother is a little shit and the sister is the cautious one. Please,
Yeah.
let the sister be a little shit
Yeah.
and the brother be.
'Cause
I think
the
the
thing
only
is-
time in which that is like flipped is in a series of unfortunate events, and that's because none of them are actually little shits. They're all.
I think as a kid, I would have been doing the same things as Seth to a point, and I think when it passes that point, that's when I was starting to get annoyed. And I vaguely remember being annoyed by Seth as a kid as well, because I'd be like, yeah, I also want to like go exploring the woods and shit.
Also, you don't have to have just one. Sorry, this is my small tangent. And okay. As a disclaimer, this isn't about it being done in one series. I have read so many fucking middle grades in the past 3-4 years. Like, so this is just an ongoing thing. You don't always have to have the same kid do all the fuck ups. Like,
Yeah.
the thing with the window didn't have to be Seth. It could have very believably been his sister. And then the window thing, the lock thing, I don't think would have been as annoying a point for you because it's like, oh no, Seth actually listened. Like,
yeah, I just listened for once.
Like, and it could have because because the whole thing was trying to help somebody or trying to save someone and stuff. And yes, it would have felt a little more sexist that way, but it doesn't matter because you don't have to have the one kid always being the one to do the fuck up. The kids can share the responsibility of fucking up.
Of fucking up.
Yeah. The easiest way to lock a window would be a latch like you would put on an exterior wooden fence.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of describing.
But like, why would you put a latch like that in your house unless shady shit?
Because the kid's a little shit.
But like I said, you would have had to. My whole thing is just that Grandpa was bad at adulting, but also, like, I would not go out and especially buy a latch if I did not think there would be severe danger, which, again, this solstice was not, like, normal.
But he did know there would be severe danger, even if it was.
But he thought the fairies would be there to protect the kids.
Yeah, but it's...
No, he didn't know there would be severe danger. He said that he just... Like I said, the level of danger we got versus the level of danger he was expecting, I don't think we're anywhere near each other.
Yes.
The conservation angle was super good as a kid and still mostly holds up as an adult. I agree. And then he asked you about the series. He grew up near the Toledo Zoo, which has been in the top 10 zoos in the world for years and has a really good conservation program. So I love all the conservation stuff throughout the series. Yes. A conservation zoo. We're getting a zoo membership again this year. We used to get one every year, but then our kids decided they didn't care about the zoo anymore, so we were like, fuck it. But my mom let us use hers to take them to the zoo earlier this year, and they were so excited and interested in it again and started reading all the signs and everything. We actually normally, like, we had gotten to the point where we could walk around the zoo in like an hour, and we were there for a couple hours just going through one path. So we were like, we're doing it.
Yeah, I went to the LA Zoo, but I don't know where it is conservation wise. I mean, like, recently.
If the LA Zoo is not actively advertising that they are conservation-wise, they're probably not. Because, like in the Nashville Zoo, you go to the tiger thing, it's got this whole thing on palm oil. Tells you how you can, there's an app that you can download for palm oil to scan it and stuff. So, like, the Nashville Zoo also has a vet center, and they, like, do veterinarian shows and stuff. So, in my experience, if conservation and education is a really big part of it, you can't miss it because they put it in your face. There's this snow leopard that the zoo got when she was a cub. She's a clouded leopard. My dad knows her name and has, like, followed her story since she was a kid. And recently she had a litter, and he, like, follows the story of her litter and stuff. And he's seen I forgot her name. I feel like such a bad daughter right now, but my dad is so emotionally attached to that clouded leopard.
I love that for him.
Grandpa did not adult.
I will amend my statement. Grandpa did not adult for human children very well. And then I lived vicariously through Seth because I was the younger brother who was not a little shit, lol. Yeah. Oh my god, the whole thing about eating, like, okay, his wife turning into a chicken, and then him just being like eating her eggs and like just foisting her off onto the grandkids to take care of. Like I know
Not
it was
gonna lie, I thought Grandpa was a pretty shitty husband.
yeah. And then the fact that like the knot is right there. Like yeah, we didn't want to get down to one knot, but before the kids arrived, there were two. And your wife is a chicken.
And he's just like, free eggs. And she's
like other things are dead ends. Like I get it not being your first thing you do. This has been happening for months. She's been a chicken for months. Chickens don't live that long. Does she become an old chicken? And then, like, because she's an old lady, is she an old chicken? And then how much longer does she have left as a chicken? Like,
what?
Does it correlate?
How long do you think chickens live?
Less than a human?
Okay, but you said she's been a chicken for a couple months and chickens don't live that long. How long do you think
like
chickens
10
live?
years.
Huh?
Like 10 years or less than 10 years.
Okay, they can live up to 12 years.
Okay.
But also, if we're going by...
chickens don't live that long in comparison to people.
I thought you thought chickens only live like 5 months. I was like, hold on.
No. I mean, in the grand scheme, like, dogs don't live that long. Cats
arguably, in the rules of this world, a woman transformed into a chicken would live out her human lifespan.
Yeah, probably. But I'm like, that would be my concern if my wife got turned into a chicken.
Which is valid and fair.
And he does not seem that stressed about it.
He seemed like he would have been happy if she just stayed a chicken.
I still got some of the eggs in the fridge.
And she's like, you've been eating my eggs. And he's like, I got more. As if he's like, you want to eat some? And that's going to make everything better.
I don't know.
I think Grandpa married into the family, and Grandma is the one who grew up on the conservation.
I kind of hope so, just because she's so much fucking better at it. Even though he is the caretaker, she's the caretaker's wife. Which I did not like that distinction. I was like,
that's fair.
She lives here. What? Why can't they just both be the caretaker? They're the caretaker couple.
There was a very gendered thing about how they kept talking about caretaker wives.
Yeah, and then later it was when she was talking to the troll, she was like, oh, my husband's got this because I am his woman. And I'm like, which is fine, but it's, I don't know, it was just weird. It's fine in certain things, but I was like, don't love the vibe, actually, there, that, like, you could only massage your husband. And I'm like, what about your friends or your, like, kids, if they're, like, I don't know. Massage is such a love language in my family, where, like, I'm constantly giving my,
I took it as that was a bargaining thing, not...
Yeah, I kind of hope with that, but I'm like, still don't like the gendered undertones in a kid's book from that.
Yeah.
And just the gendered tones in general.
Chris said, did her chicken body restart because once she run out of eggs to make if she were the equivalent age to her human body?
I don't know. I have so many
questions. How long? I think they actually only have eggs for a couple years. How long do chickens lay eggs without a rooster? That's also a good question. The first 2 to 3 years of life will peak in production in the first year.
But when does they stop having eggs?
That's what I'm looking. It frequently
eggs every day.
declines.
That's weird. It's weird that he was eating her eggs. Like,
yeah. Most of them lay eggs until...
Another thing in the book that I was like, a little bit about is Lena being... So Lena is a dryad, and she looks generally Asian, Chinese, kind of implied. They said Chinese, but I think she just looks generally Asian because she's a dryad, and the kid wasn't quite sure. Like, Kendra wasn't sure. But her saying, like, that her husband, like, yeah, and he said he was always, he likes my eyes, he said he was always of the Asian persuasion. I'm like, we didn't need to know that your husband, who was living in the 1800s, has an Asian kink. we didn't need that line. You could have
Reach
just said he
on.
always liked my eyes, which could mean any number of things, or I don't know. It was
Yeah,
weird
it could
having
have
her
been left there.
specifically,
That was definitely
like, because I think that is a trope, is having like the Asian woman be the inhuman one, or like Asian meaning other, because that's something I've
any minority being
yeah,
other.
any
It's
minority.
a
Because
trope.
that's something I've
There's
thought about with my own book. Is Rye real world equivalent would be some sort of
yeah.
Asian, or East Asian. It's a big continent,
It
but
it was also something I had to consider with Moxie and Rochelle because
yeah,
Moxie
and
is a
so
Latina
I'm like,
and
that's already on my mind, and then having this, and I'm like, don't love it. Also, like, the only person's race we really go into, other than the fairies, we get into the fairy race equivalents a lot as well. But I'm like, I don't think we got descriptions of like Kendra and Seth,
because
and
they're hashtag default white.
yeah, and like Grandpa and Grandma, like we didn't really get that of anyone
It
else.
is it
I'm
is
like,
definitely one of those books, which there's a lot of books like it, and
yeah,
it's something that like at this point people have to consciously work to fix, where any white character is not described.
yeah,
But if they are
default white.
non-white, it is pointed out. And
Yeah.
that's it's like the default white mentality because it's been done in literature and fiction for so long. People do it with like it's a subconscious thing at this
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah. So that was just something that stood out to me, just the Asian persuasion. I'm like, also the fact that this was in the 1800s. I'm like,
I
mm,
know that's one of those like
don't
I
love
wish
that.
like either the line should not have been there or she should have made a comment about how that wouldn't be
Yeah.
acceptable to say it.
Okay, let's see my other notes.
I'll say I did appreciate that the fairies were a variety of
Yeah,
ethnicity.
yeah, like
I
from
like
where
that.
they come from, they're whoever the native peoples of that place are. Um, Uh, Somebody knows, I get you want heirs, but this is too young for your little Tess. That was one of my things. Yeah, I already talked about that. With them saying that for the summer solstice thing, they're like, yeah, we can't go stay in a hotel because like someone needs to be here for the wards. You don't all have to be. Lena and the kids can go to a hotel. The kids didn't have to be here for this. Like, I know he didn't realize how bad it was going to be, but he knew it was still going to be like a traumatic thing. Like, you could have sent Lena and the kids to a hotel for the night, and then you and Dale would have still been a person on the property making the wards in effect.
I am only conflicted with that because Lena is not their guardian. She just
Then she could have
lives
gone. She could
there.
have been. Like, I know that conception. Like, I know they're obviously it's not a perfect solution, but I'm like, we talked about it enough where I'm like, oh no, all of the adults or all of the residents of the house need to be in the house for the wards to be at full strength, like something like that. Where I'm like, there were we set up a thing. A lot of the times he set up like these are the conditions for some magic to take place, and we fulfilled that. But I'm like, there are ways of like going around. I'm like, it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the story. It's just something I was like, well, there was.
Well, like if Lena offered, yes, but it's one of those things where it's like you don't want to assume other people will take responsibility for your kids.
I mean, she's feeding them and making like she's the one taking care of the kids.
Again, Grandpa is really shitty at it
Grandpa
alone,
is
and
shitty.
Lena did not offer.
Yeah. I don't blame her for that. Let's see.
I don't know. That's just like assuming this woman you hired as a maid is going to be like, oh yes, just go watch the children at a hotel overnight for me.
No, it's more like, hey, you're another responsible adult who cares about the kids. Can you go somewhere safe with them? So, and I will stay here and be potentially in danger. Um, okay, we already talked about this, but once you introduce the kids, give them fucking guidance. Of course, they'll make mistakes if they don't know anything. Um, And yeah, a guidebook for caretakers.
It's just more it's just more pointing out that Grandpa specifically is the one bad at this.
Yes. Hate the udder scene. Why leave your wife with the kids in a cage? You know she is an adult person. What the fuck? That was about her being a chicken. And when it was the chicken, because the entire time I think I did remember she was the chicken. Because as soon as the chicken showed up, I was like, the grandma's the chicken. I just knew that straight off the bat. So every scene with the chicken, I'm like, that is a
I knew there was. I will say I knew something was up with Grandma because why is the chicken named Goldilocks in a place called Fablehaven? I was like, something's up with that chicken. That chicken's not a chicken. But I did not, and I was like, and something's up with Grandma. But I did not actually piece together that Grandma was the chicken. I even theorized at one point that Grandma was maybe in cahoots with the League of the Stars.
Yeah, I was also thinking that at one point. Because half of me is like, she's the chicken. I'm like, she can't be the fucking chicken. She was. RP said, I felt the same thing when I first read it, and then I became an adult and realized that hotels are super expensive, and if Grandpa is taking care of the preserve, then he isn't making money at work. But no, they have a fully functioning farm. Because the golem's doing actual farm work.
Yeah, but like...
And they said how that all of the Fablehaven families come from like old money. Or all of the preserve, they like...
I don't know, I was not told that they had money. I was just told that they are self-sufficient, and so I wasn't... Or like they have secret society money, which who knows if secret society money...
For a singular hotel room, even if it's like a motel, just stay in the car in a parking lot for a night. Not on the Evil Death place.
Look, if you're just expecting a severe thunderstorm and then a tornado comes through and then people are criticizing you for not taking tornado precautions,
I think it's more you're expecting a 3-foot flood, but it ends up being a 10-foot flood, and you're like, you shouldn't have been there, it's gonna flood.
I feel my thunderstorm versus tornado comparison is more apropos.
Okay, when it's a severe thunderstorm and you know it's very likely to get worse because of, the factors like the fairies, then it's like...
No, okay, so in my mental metaphor, you are used to heavy rains.
Yes.
Right? So you're like, oh yeah, we get really heavy rains and storming this time of year, right? And then you're like, okay, we're gonna be extra careful because, like, we're supposed to be getting severe thunderstorms, and so we're going to be dealing with a lot of lightning and heavy winds and stuff. But, like, we'll still be fine, right? Because it's just a severe thunderstorm. 60-mile winds, it's fine. Everything will still be fine. Just do what we say. But then a fucking tornado comes through, and you're like, that wasn't what we were preparing for.
Yeah. I understand your analogy. I think there are, like, more things that, like, were pointed... They expected it to be worse than normal.
Yes. They did not expect it to be as
But
bad.
I don't think it would have been as bad if Seth hadn't... Like, things wouldn't have gone wrong unless Seth made that decision. And that decision wouldn't have been possible.
But we don't know that for certain. We just know that Seth made it easier for things to go wrong. But that doesn't necessarily mean...
Yeah, that is another thing. I wish we got more explanation what happened after the fact. Because, like, how did what beings kidnapped them? Like, was it the imps? But were they fully grown at that point? We were waiting for the...
Yeah, because also, why wasn't Grandpa actually able to handle them? And the Dryad, and because presumably they've handled them all the time. So.
Yeah, and, like, the witch wasn't freed yet. And, like, there's the light implication she was using the puppet and the imps, but the imps were still tiny at that point, and the puppet wasn't full-sized either, so it's like, who actually kidnapped them?
That was what I wanted to know. I was waiting for an explanation on the kidnapping the whole time, but I completely forgot.
Because then it was like, we have to get to the Forbidden Temple before she finds out that he's there. Who took him there? And then it just... I mean, it was probably the Wraith lady, but then she was working, but we didn't get told that. Like, I don't know. RP says, which brings me up one of my thoughts, how the hell they're paying property taxes on being pretending to be a normal people. Okay, secret society could make sense, or secret society money could make sense, but otherwise, property taxes are an absolute bitch. You own a lot of property.
Yeah, I would say if they're, like, I would
Some-
assume that all of these conservation, like, these fable conservations are getting some secret society money to stay functioning and everything, because, like,
Also, they are like selling products from the creatures. It seems like, along with normal mundane like meat and shit.
yes, but but those things can only be sold to other secret society people.
Yeah, but if you have time to be in a secret society, that means rich. Yeah. Let's see.
Also, apparently, Fablehaven isn't the first conservatory to have been attacked. They've.
Yeah. Also, they're one of like the 5 special ones, so they definitely have family money.
I did forget about that fact.
Yeah. Also, when the troll asked for the money, she's like, "We don't have that. They're the gold bars and gems," and I'm like, or she doesn't have that right now, and I'm like.
Again, though, anything she said to the troll, I could easily be dismissed. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I meant by secret society money, because I'm like, it's secret society money, but who says that currency can actually be used in the real world?
Yeah.
Like, if your currency is like these specialized fairy gems, or like these gems from like these mystic mines and stuff, who says like the real world wouldn't just be like, that's a cheap fucking emerald. Yeah. Get out of here.
So. LED in this emerald? What the fuck? Why is it glowing?
This diamond has so many imperfections. It's so blurry. Whereas, like, in reality, it's a super magical component thing that'll...
Like, there's fairy etched, like, beautiful designs, and it's like, what the fuck happened to the diamond?
Why is the diamond so cloudy? Who wrote all over it?
No, fairy magic wrote inside of it without destroying the outer shell. No. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
You don't understand.
But I loved these books. I totally get how I loved these as a kid. I think they're fun. I don't super have the desire to read the next one, where I'm like, if I would read it if, you know, someone was like, hey, do you want to read this? But I wouldn't, or if I was like sitting in a library and I didn't have my phone or something.
Story of my life and 80% of the things I've ever read.
Where I'm like, yeah, that was fun. But I'm glad I reread it now. I have all the books on my shelf at home, so I'm like, kind of feel like I should keep reading it. But
so it sounds like this gets to be one of her safety net decisions for when I'm like, I need a book pick for next month.
Yeah.
Or like lording over her, or like we've read like 5 volumes of a series, and a break is called for. A palate cleanser.
Yeah.
I only say it because, like, you look at Heaven's Official Blessing, and I feel you, like, every time.
It's like 8 books. It is longer than the Bible. The Holy Bible. It is.
I'm doing us next month on Book Talk as we discuss the Holy Bible. Because it's shorter than Heaven's Official Blessing.
It's Heaven's Official Blessing. Look, it's also about gods. God.
Are you trying to wait, am I being tricked into reading a religious text?
I think I'm trying to convince Christians to read my gay novels.
That's not what I said. I said, am I being tricked into reading a holy text? And then I was going to say, you don't have to trick me into reading a holy text. I would gladly read any religious text. And 2, you can't convert me to a genre I already enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I think I was trying to convince Christians to pray to Chivien. Who knows? He's great. Good pray.
So, on that note, is there anything else about Fablehaven you wanted to discuss?
No. I really liked what you said about like not having one kid make all the mistakes.
Yes.
Because that I feel like Kendra was kind of passive for a lot of it, and she kind of needed to be passive for the end result of, like, they can't harm her. But I wish she was active in ways that didn't break the rules or something.
I love how competent Kendra was allowed to be. I did not like how it seemed. It felt like Kendra was like, Seth had to make all the mistakes, but he also did things right, whereas it felt like Kendra could not make mistakes. And you grow more from messing up than from getting it right every time.
Seth was a more interesting character than Kendra.
I disagree. I liked Kendra better.
I like Kendra better, definitely. Seth is so annoying.
Let me finish. I didn't find Seth to be an interesting character because Seth is just every hashtag little shit little brother in a middle grade I've ever read. There was nothing different about him. So I was like, meh.
I guess, I mean, not actually. I think I tried to stray away from the more snooty terms, but I think he's technically a more dynamic character.
Yes, he is a more dynamic character.
So, I don't think he's more interesting. I misspoke. RP said, I believe Kendra has a lot more more than Seth moments in later novels. It's been a while since I read them. I'm pretty sure she messes up in later novels. Okay.
That would be good.
Oh, so you were saying Seth moments.
More Seth moments.
Yeah. Which I'm like, a character doesn't need to mess up for them to be interesting and learn and blah, blah, blah. But, like, with the amount that Seth...
No, but in a middle grade, like, children's book, where part of the thing is that the children are learning and growing, it is a hindrance to their arc.
Yeah.
And as you know, I am firm on the hill that you don't have to have a dynamic lead to have an interesting story.
Yes. Oh, another thing is, like, after her family's captured, we get all of this information about how Kendra has, like, anxiety and phobias, and I'm like,
that would have been so great to know. That could have been, like, I feel like the beginning of the novel was so focused on Seth, and then the end of the novel was so focused on Kendra, and it could have been a little more balanced.
Yeah. Because we get, like, Kendra's hesitant to break rules, but we don't get to know why. We get to know why, like, because we shouldn't break rules, but, like, if she has anxiety or, like, literally all of these, like, she's afraid of heights, she, like, you know, the stage thing, like, all sorts of the getting off of the diving board. I'm like, these are all cool things we could have heard earlier. Like, we spent so much time around a pool, and only at the end, when we're not by a pool, do we learn about her diving board trauma? Like, come on.
That easily could have been added, and that could have added so much to her thing on the boat with the dryad.
Climbing the fence or climbing the ladder to milk the cow udders. If we wanted to spend that much time there, we have an explanation of why she's kind of afraid to climb the ladder over and over again and jumping. Like, that would suit really well there, but yeah. So I guess those were my last thoughts.
I enjoyed it despite my criticisms and stuff. Like I said, on like its own, or like in a, what's the word I'm looking for? In a box, the way Seth and Kendra are portrayed and stuff is not terrible. It's just, as somebody who reads so much middle grade, and I feel like middle grade authors and YA authors have an unfortunate burden on their shoulders that they do have to be conscious of how they portray things, because their primary readers are still developing. They're still learning. There's so much fucking science and studies behind the fact that the media that we take in as children and teenagers and stuff does affect the way that our brains develop, and even post your brain being fully developed, right? The media that you take in can still have an effect and stuff, which is why if you like watch a lot of depressing things, you start to become a little depressed. It's why you gotta like mix it up and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
maybe this is why I'm so annoyed by my little brother sometimes.
You're just gonna look at your little brother now, and you'd be like, you fucking Seth.
You would cause a demon to be revived.
You'd open that window. My camera didn't like the shit talking.
Probably my older brother would. No, I don't actually think either one of them would, but it's funny.
If any of my children would open that window, it would be my daughter, 100%, not my boys.
Youngest sibling. Still youngest sibling.
Yeah. But our next book for this month, which I will post the schedule sometime this weekend because I do have the schedule now. No, wait, I have to fucking... Cody, I'm coming for you. You're being named and shamed now. I have to bug him. He took last month off, but in my doing for that, I forgot my initial reason for going to Discord was to look up the date that I had told you. Or is it in my Mila? It might be in my Mila.
According to my calendar, it is...
The 24th. It is in my Mila. All hail the Mila note. Yes, so the 24th, which is next week. CB and I both had things going on at the beginning of the month. But, yeah, so next week we will be reading The Raven King. Largely did not think this would be an issue because I'm pretty sure CB's going to devour the book when she starts. This is only going to be my second time reading The Raven King, whereas every other book I had already read twice at least. So I only vaguely remember certain things, and I don't remember.
I'm so excited for it to be gay.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Don't worry, you're going to get gay shit.
And you know, Blue and Gansey can get together. I do care about them. I do care about them. But they are my lesser priority.
Well, let me correct myself. I care about Blue. I care about Gansey. I do not care about Blue and Gansey as a couple.
Yeah. I like them better together, but
I do love the delicious tension and drama their whole thing brings to the group as a whole. But
yes, but I'm like,
this is the actual couple.
And I'd be okay with that.
However, I don't want to say anything spoilery, but I think that making this statement will just make you more excited. I am so eager and excited for you to get to the gay scenes in The Raven King, because my boys.
My Pinterest, not like anything else, Pinterest started showing me fan art for Ronan and Adam, and I'm like, I can't look.
They're so...
I was like, oh, who are these two boys kissing? And I'm like, oh, I know those boys.
They're such a good couple. I love them. But yes, that's all I'm going to say. I'm very excited to reread it. And then also maybe, force Matt to read the sequel series with us.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yeah. Just to let everyone know, I have to look at my schedule. That's right here because I haven't posted it. But CB will be with me the rest of the month with maybe a Cody. Whip Wednesday will continue as it do. We don't have any other special streams planned other than The Raven King next Friday. And our May book talks are going to need to be either at the beginning-ish of May or one at the beginning and the other at the end. So we'll have a much bigger space. Gotta figure that out because I will be working 2 conventions in May. And because I'm working 2 conventions in May and I have made the decision/statement that I will not be streaming Mondays after I work a convention, I have to keep repeating it, otherwise I will try to stream a Monday after the convention. Yeah. I will not be streaming Mondays half of May. Wednesdays, up in the air. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I might just stream alone, or we'll take it off if I have work or something.
Yeah. But, oh yes, also, CB got a job. Congratulations.
I did. I won't tell you guys what it is, but I got one. Yay.
And we'll catch you later. Bye.
Bye.